Hey everybody, this is Peter here at H&M Realty. I want to talk to you about, I've been in real estate now for 5 years. The first 2 years it was kind of this like I was in, out, kind of just maybe going to do it, maybe not going to do it. For the last 3 years, I've been really, putting my nose to the grindstone and being able to produce what I've put in. So I want to talk to you about, the 5 things that I've learned since I've had my real estate license. Because some people, they want to get, into real estate. They don't know how to. Some people say, hey, you should get your license. Some people say, don't get your license, just invest. So as a real estate agent, this is where I'm coming from on the perspective side of the last 5 years, what it's been for me and how at least I've felt, and also the things that I've gone through. One thing is, and this is going to go more towards some of the agent side, and then also some of the buyers and sellers that are looking to, buy or sell a home. So one thing is you don't have to put 20% down. I know I've actually was just asked this question the other day. Well, I got to put 20% down. That's not the case if you're buying your own house and you're buying it to live in. It's different if you're buying an investment property and you already have your personal residence. That's a different story. But if you're going to buy your first primary residence, you don't always have to put 20% down. Some scenarios you have to, just really depends on what's going on, but most of the time you don't have to. And a lot of people have misconceptions about that. It changed a long time ago, years ago, where government-backed loans came into play and everything else. And I've spoke about those before in other videos, but those are things to jump back on my YouTube channel or my Facebook channel and see other videos that I've done about FHA loans, conventional 3% down. You can go from conventional all the way down to 3%, 5%. After that 3%, it goes in 5% increments. So you don't have to put 20% down. That was one thing I learned going through the process, and still today, and just to today, getting those questions and getting people to ask those questions is one thing that I think people should know. The other thing, so number 2 would be cash is not always king. So a lot of people say, well, cash is king, and that is true if you're buying a property that needs to be fixed up and you're the investor on the backside and you don't want to pay another person, bank or something like that, interest. But cash for a seller is not always king, because I've been in a lot of situations where the actual seller takes another offer over cash because that offer is either more money and they're going to net more money and they're confident that that's going to close, or the terms are better, or the terms are better. So those are 2 things to think about, especially when people say you got to have cash to invest, you got to do this, you got to do that. No, at the end of the day, it's what really in reality, what the best offer is for that person selling. Sometimes it is cash though. Sometimes, it's nice to have cash, especially on the sidelines. If we have another 2008, 9, 10, 11, that's a good possibility where you can stockpile of cash. And if you do find something that cash is going to be better than financing, then great. But if we have that downturn, then you can utilize all that cash and go buy a ton of properties, because in those scenarios, it's going to be more advantageous. Some people need to get out of their properties right away. But that was number 2. Number 3 is the failure rate of being a real estate agent. So within the first 5 years of being a real estate agent, 87% fail. Get out of the business, they're out. They don't want to come back in. They're just out. They're done. That's one big statistic that a lot of people face going into being a real estate agent. And it's going to go to a couple other points that I'm going to talk about too. But going into an industry where that the failure rate is what everybody wants as a grade in high school is pretty bad. Like, you got to realize, like, you're coming in and that the failure rate is massive. The first year, mind you, is 75%. So you have people coming in knowing that 3 out of 4 people are going to get out of the industry within the first year, and more than that in the next 4 years after that first year. So those are things that you got to, bring into evaluation as you go into real estate. And if you want to get your license, and depending on, the reasons you're getting your license, if it's because you want to be an agent and you want to sell a lot of homes, just realize it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of effort to make sure that you have a substantial income to provide for your family. Number 4 is not all marketing is equal. So, and it's not a silver bullet. There's a lot of things that I've done: mailers, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, radio ads. All these things are not a silver bullet. And that kind of goes back to point 3, where that high percentage of real estate agents get out of the business. Well, not every marketing piece is going to be a silver bullet. So a lot of agents will, or people in my profession will take a marketing piece, whatever that is. Could be digital marketing or old-fashioned mailers or brochures or door knocking. Do it one time, and then they're done. And then they say, well, it didn't work for me. That's one thing that you guys need to, for one, do it for a consistent time period. Usually we talk about, 6 months. So realize that you're gonna invest that money for 6 months, maybe 9 months, depending on the market, depending on where it's at and everything else. So you're gonna invest that money for the 6-9 month period, and you're gonna watch the phone calls, the text messages, the emails come back to you. Email marketing is another avenue that people go down, but they may be paying someone to do it, or it's just time period. So those are things that aren't a silver bullet. You got to stay on top of those, and that goes back to point number 3. The third thing that I learned, that there's a massive amount of people that get out of this industry, and this is why, is because people think, I'm going to get in the industry, sell a couple homes, utilize that money for one marketing campaign, and then all of a sudden they do that marketing campaign, no one calls them, and then they just spent $2,000 and they're like, well, I can't spend any more because I didn't budget, nor did I think about this in the long term versus the short term. So that's point number 4. Number 5 is, don't always bank on family, friends, repeat business, because there's been a lot of times where family member, friends, repeat business go to somebody else to sell their home because maybe you weren't top of mind. Maybe, they haven't had the best relationship with you, whatever. There's a long list of things that they're not using you for. You're not in their market. They may be an hour and a half away and think that John Smith is a better real estate agent than you because you're not in their market. So those are other things, and that kind of goes back to 3 and 4. Like, some people get in the industry thinking, okay, hey, I can help, my aunt, uncle, myself buy a home, and then, that's going to be consistent every year. That's not going to be consistent every year. The hardest thing is to get that repeated business in consistent. So not 1 month, all of a sudden you're up, and then 3 months go by, you haven't had a sale, and then the next month after that 3-month period, you get a sale. You don't want something like that either, because if you had a full-time job and you had consistent income, that's not going to create, that will create, safety for you, but as an agent and having up and down income, that's going to create like some safety net for you, consistency, and ultimately is going to push you out of the business and be that statistic that I mentioned. So those are things that you got to think about, especially getting in. That's the 5 things that I learned since I've been in this business, is those key pieces will fuel you to get, if you want to get your real estate license to be an agent, those things will fuel you to get to a place where you have consistent income and it's not going all across the board up and down, where you're going to ultimately get out within that 5-year period and then want to try to go get something else at, a job that's going to be consistently paying you $150,000 a year. So things to think about. Thanks for watching.